how do you build confidence and how do you build yourself more into the person that you want to become? This is something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially for me over the past 6, 12, 18 months. Because if you know anything about my backstory, you'll know that I grew up as a very shy, very insecure kid who would never put himself out there, and that version of me back then would never have imagined me doing the things that I'm doing now, posting content in the way that I am, helping people in the way that I'm able to help people. And there have definitely been things along my journey that have helped in confidence, that have helped me work towards more of the life that I'm looking to build. And with today's video, because I've done some more recent ones when I've been out and away and doing other stuff, but I thought it was about time to come back to just a sitting down, talking video, no cuts, just talking straight from the heart, talking from experience, in the hope that it's going to help someone out there, because I used to love watching videos like this, and I know that if I'm creating the content that I would want to watch, there's going to be at least someone else out there that is going to resonate with it. And essentially I'm just going to be talking through the key things I've learned in my journey, things that will hopefully help you build confidence, build that sense of worth in yourself, and ultimately stop yourself holding you back from the things that you are looking to do. So to go back to where everything all started for me, all the time growing up, naturally, I'm very introverted, and growing up, going through school, and mum and dad would be probably the best ones to tell you this, I would never really speak to anyone, wouldn't speak to many people. I liked to keep myself to myself. Obviously, I had friends, but just naturally, very quiet, never or very rarely wanted to put myself out there. I didn't like to stand out. I didn't like people to view me as being different to everyone else. And it wasn't really an issue growing up. It was fine, but it was kind of more as you get into those teenage years that the whole sense of comparison starts to kick in, and status, and you see yourself as being less than other people. And definitely in school, I didn't feel like I really had any status. I had friends and all that, but I was not that popular. And a lot of the time, I remember vividly, like in lessons in school, I would never put my hand up. I would never want to speak in front of the class. The presentations that we were used to forced to run were like one of my biggest nightmares was having to speak in front of the class. I just hated it. Hated ever putting myself out there. And this kind of ran right through until definitely even the end of school, going into college after school. And it was only really going away to university that all of that finally started to change. And I think part of the reason for me going through school, what maybe held me back as well, is that I used to hold a lot back around the things that were going on with Toby. For whatever reason, I didn't really want people to know that there was anything different with my brother, that our family wasn't quote unquote normal at that time. And then even things in my health where I was diagnosed with Addison's disease, where my body does not produce cortisol, so I take medication to replace that. I didn't even want people to know that I had this condition, and I was meant to be wearing this medical ID bracelet that said the condition I had, and in case of emergency I would need, or still do need, a steroid injection. I didn't want people to know that I even had that. I didn't want anyone to know that there was anything different with me. So part of it probably goes back to the story with Toby and all of that stuff that was going on. But on a deeper level, I think it was just always there anyway, just that lack of confidence, lack of belief in myself. And like I said, it was only really starting to go into that point of going into university, because I think at school you have a certain identity and it's very hard to change who you are. When you're at school, it's hard to be that person you want to be, because the people around you, they've seen you a certain way for so long, you can't really change the way you are. And I think this applies whatever context you're in life. If you are behaving a certain way, doing things in a certain way, your mind is always going to be pulling you to conform with those expectations. And this applies depending on where you are in your fitness journey. If you've never been going to the gym before, you've never been paying more attention to your food and stuff like that, and say suddenly you're at work and people start making comments like, oh, you're eating a bit different now, and you're not doing the things you used to do, and you're going to the gym, and people will in a way almost mock you for doing that stuff, for trying to improve and work on your situation. And people will do that because as soon as they see you doing things to better yourself, it kind of exposes that gap in themselves, the things that they are not willing to do. So then they're almost trying to bring you back down to their level. But with the thing around comparison and why for me, like in school, it was hard to become that person, is because people saw me a certain way for so long and I didn't want to break out of that. And you might find it, like I said, in your fitness, you're trying to make changes, but a lot of people are gonna, or they know you to be a certain way, and as soon as you start trying to change that, people notice and start to make comments. And that's always going to happen. But for me, it was then that kind of shift going to university. And a big reason why, because I went to university in Portsmouth, which is 5 hours away from Truro, my hometown, where I am now. I wanted to go that far away because I knew that it was very unlikely that I would know anyone up there that I knew from down here, because it weirdly felt like going somewhere as far away as that, it felt like I could build a new identity of myself. No one knows who I am. No one knows how I used to behave. So it's kind of this clean slate where no one knows the past version of you. You can start to create more of the person that you want to be. Even then, I was still naturally struggled with putting myself out there at first, with speaking to new people and all of that stuff, but it definitely improved going away to university and being someone new around a completely new bunch of people. So I had that time in university, and through that, something else that I have spoken about before is, because I was working on different bits at the time, I was studying sports science, but then also looking at doing little bits of freelancing and social media marketing, little things that I could do to kind of build like as a little side hustle that nothing really went anywhere, but I was trying to like just plug away during my degree, trying to work some little bits out. And part of that was going to networking events, and this was definitely a big shift for me, because again, the old version of me did hate putting himself in new rooms of new people, having to be at a table with all of these other people who are running their own businesses, and some of them potentially pretty successfully. And there's 19, 20-year-old me at university, doesn't really know what he's doing, but he's just putting himself out there, and then having to stand up in front of a room and introduce yourself and what you're doing was the hardest thing at the time. I had no confidence in doing it, but thinking about it now, I don't know what was the push that It even pushed me to do it. I suppose it's just I was in the mindset of there was nothing to lose. You're so young, there is nothing to lose. So I might as well just go for it, just put myself out there. And as hard as those experiences were, I'm so glad that I did them. And a lesson here is that before you do anything like that, before you make any shift into the version of you that you want to become that's different from where you are now, it's always going to feel hard and it's always going to feel uncomfortable, because our minds naturally are programmed to keep ourselves in the state that we've always been in. Evolutionarily, we do that scary thing. We go to the networking event, you step in the gym for the first time. That flight or fight response that you get in your brain, evolutionarily, that would have been your body going into survival mode. It's that internal panic that what's going to happen. You don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know how people are going to react, how they're going to perceive you. Not that there's any threat to our survival these days, but that's, I think, how our brain is perceiving it. But your mind is always pulling you to be comfortable. It's pulling you to stay in the same position that you are now, which is the same reason why working on your fitness, trying to lose fat, your body is naturally always going to pull yourself back to where you are now. Your body doesn't want to lose fat because it wants to stay where it is now. Evolutionarily, again, your body would have a better chance of survival if you're carrying more weight, rather than when you start to lose it, your body starts to go into that survival mode and it panics. But doing anything new or different is always going to be uncomfortable. I know a lot of the time people will want that magic pill, that magic piece of advice that just removes all of that discomfort from making the change, but it's always going to be there, and that's okay. But you don't have to let that voice in your head that tells you that you can't, you don't have to let that be the reason that you don't do it. Try and take that voice in your head. Realize that that voice that's telling you not to do it doesn't have your best intentions for you. It's just trying to keep you comfortable. So just accept that it is there, but also know that on the other side of the voice telling you that is probably everything that you want to do and everything that you want to achieve. All of those things that are difficult, that are uncomfortable. Usually, especially what I found is the more uncomfortable that a situation or something would make me, it was always the better I would feel coming away from those events. Same thing when I was big into running, and I'd always be intimidated by, I've got to go out and run 10K today, I've got to go out and run 20K. And mentally, there's just this whole burden of, again, your mind is pulling you back to bed. It doesn't want to do that uncomfortable thing because it is uncomfortable. But typically, the harder something is, the payoff in terms of how good you feel once you've done it is like inversely related. So if it's harder to do and mentally feels more like a burden when you do it, the harder it is, the better it feels once you get it done. You start shifting your identity, you start to build that new version of yourself, you shift the way that you start to perceive yourself. And there's definitely a point here around, you don't build the confidence by telling yourself that you're confident. There's a quote that I've heard where you don't get confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, by telling yourself, I'm confident, I'm this, I'm that. You build that confidence by building an undeniable stack of evidence that you are the person that you say that you are. You build that confidence by going out and doing the uncomfortable things before you feel ready, because you will never feel ready to do the things. You just have to do them. And then the more you do them, the more you then start to shift your identity. You start seeing yourself as that person that can do the uncomfortable thing. And over time, you just build that confidence. You build the reputation within yourself that you do the hard thing. And it's not that those feelings inside of you, it's not that they go away, because a lot of the time hard things are still going to feel hard, in the same way that you won't always feel motivated, because I definitely don't. You just become the person that is able to push through it, that is able to act despite the way that you feel, because feelings are just an indicator from your body, again, pulling you back to the version of yourself that you probably don't want. And you don't have to listen to those feelings. You know the thing that you should do. You know the thing that is going to help you and support you get to where you want to be. And everything between you and that is all that emotion and all that just all those feelings inside of you that are always pulling you back to being your old comfortable self. And you don't have to listen to it. You can push through and become more of the person that you want to be. And for me, that time going through university, going to the networking events was a big shift for me, just proving that I could go out and do something like that I could put myself in those rooms of people where I didn't feel like I belonged, but I also knew that regardless of what connections I built, because none of them really ever came to anything, but it was more the relationship that I built with myself, the reputation that changed within myself, being able to go and do that stuff and just realizing that I could do it and it's okay. It's what there's nothing to lose, especially if you are young. There's nothing to lose. So that was a big shift during that time at university. But I think another massive part of my journey that is more recent, if you follow me for a while, you might have seen the video I shared in December last year talking about my health and the things that I've been experiencing within that. And I'm not going to go into everything here. If you want to learn more about the backstory, I'll try and put a link on the screen, but it's also, if you go back on my videos, it's the I need to talk about my health video. And these were things that I noticed changes with towards the back end of university, and they were things that I kept bottled up for literally 18 months until that video went out. And why I didn't want to share it is, one, not wanting to admit to there maybe being an issue there, but it was also, as a personal trainer, as a fitness coach, not wanting people to know that there was something different about me, or there were issues within my health, because there was the fear in my mind that if I was to share that people then see that as a reason not to hire me as a coach, as a reason not to work with me, and in a way thinking that it would somehow damage my reputation. And I don't know, maybe there are certain people that do see it in that way and they would think that, but honestly, since I shared everything back in that December, and at the time that was the hardest video that I've ever had to make. I was so uncomfortable sat here talking on camera, because I'd only just spoken to mum and dad about it a few days before that, and then my GP about it. And he was saying, it's nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, it's empowering for other people to hear the stuff that I've been through. So I shared that video, and that was a huge shift for me, because it felt like the weight that I'd been carrying for the previous 18 months was suddenly lifted. I wasn't hiding anything anymore. I just put my whole self out there, all of the struggles, all of the issues. And it almost felt like, again, evolutionarily, you feel like you're going to get, in inverted commas, like kicked out of the tribe. Like you're going to get ostracized for sharing this stuff, that people will no longer like you anymore, that people will see you in a different way. And you feel like you just lose that credibility, that status that as humans naturally we want. But honestly, the way that I've been able to show up since putting all that stuff out there, because I'm looking at my content now that I shared a year ago, and it's just not me. I can tell that I'm putting on a facade, a version of me that I'm not. But now I feel like I can share anything. Now I've got that out there. And I don't know how this would look for you if you have certain struggles that you're going through. But I think a big part of what held me back from just being myself, from speaking my mind and sharing the stuff that I wanted to share, is on that deeper level. I just lacked belief in myself as a human. This comes back to the conversation around self-worth, where you just don't believe that, I don't know, you just don't believe you have anything worthwhile to share or to offer. But understand that anything that you are going through, anything that you've kept bottled up and that you've not wanted to share, I think all of those things will just hold you back from behaving in the way that you want to behave and becoming the person that you want to become. And realistically, if there are certain things that you are holding back about yourself that you haven't shared, that you don't want to share, that you feel like would change people's perception of you if you did share, because maybe you feel like you have a sense of status or a sense of confidence already, but you don't feel like you're being who you are. You feel like you're being someone else. If you're being that certain person, maybe you're trying to put on a different version of yourself, and you might have friends who relate to that version of you, but you know that deep down it's not who you are. And that's not confidence, that's just a persona that you've created. And I can't speak for anyone else on this, but I just think if that's kind of what you've done, I don't believe that can be a satisfying way, a fulfilling way to live. Like when your head hits the pillow at night, there must take some level of effort to sustain that, to maintain that, to try and be someone that you are not. So I think the best thing you can do is just lay everything out, all of the struggles, all of the issues, everything personal to you. Not that it would mean talking about it all on a YouTube, but just being, I hate that advice of just be yourself, because I used to hear it all the time. I could never buy into it because I hated the shy and insecure kid that at heart I was. But it is just living more true to yourself, realizing that certain people might not resonate with it, certain people might not like who you are, but it's better to be who you are at heart, do the things that you want to do. If it meant maybe you have less friends or you have less quote unquote status, but you're living in the way that you want to live. And I think if we spent our whole lives trying to put on someone that we are not, I'm pretty sure a lot of us would end up coming to the end of our lives and be wishing that we were more true to the person that we deep down we are. And I think it's one of the top 5 regrets of the dying or something, where people wish that they lived a life that was more true to who they are. And I think it's the best thing that you can ever do, as hard as it can be, to get yourself out of a position that you are now into living more in the way that you want to live and doing the things that you want to do and want to work on. At a certain point, you just, I think, start to realise that you do have value within yourself in the way that you are already. There are certain people that will resonate with you, not that you can sit around and do nothing, because you have to do something with your life. But I think for me, it's come from finding the work that I'm passionate about, that I would literally do every single day for the rest of my life. I just love doing what I do. And just feeling like I'm living out everything that I want to do. Not that I'm there right now, but enjoying the journey, knowing that I'm going somewhere, also finding the enjoyment in the process, and realizing that no one is ever thinking about you as much as you are thinking about yourself. And also, one day we are all going to be dead. You will die, I will die, everyone that is on earth right now in 100 years most likely will be dead. So why are you giving so much value to other people who ultimately will be gone, will be gone? So never let a past version of you or other people's thoughts about you hold you back from doing the things that you want to do and being the person that you want to be, because none of it matters. And I won't lie, for me, in my own health, there are certain times when I think people, like sometimes people are maybe judging me for stuff, but then I remind myself, after 5 minutes they've probably forgotten. At the end of our lives, at the end of when everything ends, no one's going to remember anyway, no one's going to know. And all of our problems, all of our worries anyway, if you zoom out far enough, you cannot see the earth. Like that, the universe is massive, so nothing really matters. There's nothing, all of our worries and all of our concerns, mainly around what other people think, but all of our stresses and concerns, they just don't matter, because I know a lot of the time we're so like tunnel vision, so narrow focused on what we're doing. And I get this a lot because I'm very focused a lot of the time and just very narrow attention. But it's when you zoom out and you just think about the whole context of life, that, and you think of how insignificant we are in the whole period of the world and the universe, nothing matters realistically. That like there are very there is really nothing that like actually truly matters. It's, I believe people will only remember just the impact that you left on them, and essentially there's no reason to let your doubts, your fears just hold you back from doing the stuff that you want to do. And I know this video has gone off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm going to leave it there because I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a sit down video like this. It's the sort of content that younger me used to love watching when I was getting into self-development and working on myself and starting to get into business. So as long as this resonates with just one person, that's all that matters. I'm making content for younger me, but also the people out there that also might need to hear it. So this applies both in life, in fitness, in the little things that we all stress over that we don't really need to stress over. So I hope it helped. But if you did want to learn more about coaching, I'll leave those links in the description. Not that is the point of this video, but I'll put all my links in the description anyway. If you got value from this video, drop a like, drop a comment with your thoughts, and also if you want to see more videos from me, some talking more about mindset, some more about fitness and nutrition, drop a subscribe to see more, because I drop videos like this every week. But thank you for watching to the end. I know it's gone on for a while, but I appreciate you for sticking around, and I will see you in the next one.